Still day 2 of the PGA show, and we're here in the Wilson meeting room with Jon Pergande.
Pergande, you got it.
Yeah, I said it wrong the first time, but I got it now. And Mr. Brigandi is now in charge of the R&D division for Wilson. That means irons, drivers, fairway woods, hybrids, putters, the whole 9 yards.
Club side of the business.
Very good. And I've learned from my rep that Jon has quite the history within the industry. And we're going to have him tell you about who is Jon?
Who is Jon?
Who is Jon? There you go. What would Jon do?
Wow. Questions about my history in the business.
There you go.
I started at Wilson Sporting Goods in 1995 out of college. And at the time I was there, was put into the R&D group at Wilson. At that time, we still had Bob Vendrell as our primary designer of clubs, and we were starting to work on the transition between the traditional way that a lot of golf clubs are made in the forging world and hand models into the CAD world. So I started out as CAD engineering and otherwise engineering for new design and new development, and then learned my way, through the golf business, grinding and polishing on heads in the old way, creating models in the old way, and then trying to apply those traits to the modern techniques of CAD and the like.
Well, just in his short travel into the forefront of being in front of all this now, we've heard he has quite the history with forged irons, right? Is that where that comes from?
Well, I think I'm one of the last connections at Wilson to the days of the traditional forging of the old billet steel hammered into place, and we've changed a little bit over time now on the methodologies and getting products to their near net shape before we start doing it, before we start doing the final polishing and hammering on them to add some more precision to what we're doing. But when we think about forgings here at Wilson in particular, there is a style and a look of golf clubs that goes into that is something that has carried through with me. The little design features that make a club appealing to what I don't like to say better player, but a traditional player, and there is an expectation of what that forging club looks like.
And there's one thing that there's nobody that's going to argue that Wilson isn't known for their irons, particularly their forged iron. History shows it. Even up to this date, they've always had a gorgeous forged club, whether albeit be a blade or even the cavity back. They've always stood out, even amongst the best. So that's always been, that's a good thing to have right there. And against, I don't know if you picked this one up, but when they hear the words, and you'll hear it more often now, is near net forging. All right, that's the workability, I guess, when it comes right out of the last bit of the process, and then the people put the hands on, right? Well, and how much that takes to get there.
It is, I don't have the specific numbers, but back in the day in the old forging style, there was a lot more hand craftsmanship of what was going on, and you were removing as a hand polisher potentially up to 20 and 30 grams of weight off of there, which is just a lot of material. And what that would mean is that each individual operator might have their own little touch or their own little flourish. Now, if you were a tour player, you actually liked that, and you could put in those custom requests for things that go into a club. Some of those custom requests today are a little bit more difficult. We design our clubs with maybe 6 to 8 grams of available weight that's needed to clean them up and polish them up in the very last step. So the consistency of one forging and one club to the next is much more tightly held than it once was.
I.e. better QA.
Better QA.
Yeah, better QA. And that's what it relates to. Everybody in now, consistency, less waste, less time, better product when it comes right back out, so that you don't get that guy that goes, man, I just smoked my 7-iron, but I can't hit my 8 worth of darn.
Right.
And that's where a lot of that could come from.
Well, it's funny. Over time, Wilson has done some commemorative sets or some heritage sets, and you have like a Dynapower wedge come into play. And when you're trying to replicate what that Dynapower is, you could have 10 different guys in the room that have the 10 different expectations of what that look was, because they all remember the custom grind they had on their specific wedge. So it's just kind of, to that point, we're trying to reduce some of that and then keep everything as consistent as possible.
That's great. So we know that now we know Jon is the man, and we know that we have some of the, now in the irons, you know, Wilson has three different categories. They have F, C, and D: field, control, distance.
Yes.
And now with the new introduction, and what happens is for guys like me is every 2 years there's a change out, and that's great. And you know, I wish everybody would do that. And so now we're in the C. This is the year of changing out the C's, and you guys went and did something different by adding 2 flavors of the C in there, right?
We sure did.
And what's that?
Grab a quick little pair right here. It's the C300 and C300 forged irons that we have. The C300 is an extension of our C200 line that came out 2 years ago with the advent of power holes. Power holes were through holes that went around the face of the club and provide added response and feedback. You know, one of the things we believe in at Wilson is adding distance by creating a large, thin, unsupported face is one of those ways to do that. And so by minimizing the contact between the face and the body of the club, the face is able to deflect and move more. When we look at C300 now, what we've done is add a second row of power holes to the sole, which allows those little bits of structure to flex and breathe themselves. So we've got an extra large unsupported face. We've allowed the whole face to move and deflect with the impulse of the ball at impact. So what does that mean? Greater ball speeds, greater response, and longer distance.
And that ends up being more distance, right? So, and that's what everybody's looking for. Now, when you guys get a chance to see these a little closer up, the C300 is going to be one that hits the larger scope of players. What we were talking earlier is like it's under the bell curve, right? And with the modicum of offset, slightly larger soles, one of the cast comes in a stronger loft where the forge is a little more traditional, is what we call it. And the beauty about this is that again, there's, you know, when you look at lines, you like the lines to be smooth, and you don't like edges, and they've hit every single mark for what a guy or any golfer for that matter would look at and just absolutely enjoy.
Right.
And that's the great thing. The other good thing is that this thing extends into hybrids, fairway woods, and drivers.
Right.
And that's really kind of should be very exciting for Wilson this year.
It's very exciting. I think before we get there, let's just talk about the complement to that C300 iron, which is our C300 forged iron.
Yes.
So we have two irons in that crossover C category, that bell curve. And what is the forged club? It is a carbon steel based club with a forged face, a little harder on the heat treat to pick up a little extra distance with it, but it also has the 2 rows of power holes in the sole. What is the difference between the 2 clubs? Well, one has power holes all around the club, so you have a little bit wider top line and a little bit wider sole and made of a stronger stainless steel. This is the carbon steel version, created with a thinner top line with a much less offset to appeal to that traditional forged player, but then the added bonus of a whole lot of distance based on the power holes in the sole.
So even even in the C category, you're going to have a even broader range. Because it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of setup. You could almost mix and match if you really wanted to get there.
And I think that's one of those things that'll happen from either forged players crossing over, you know, the V6 type player crossing over for a longer iron here if you want to split a setup, or that D player looking for a little bit more control in those shorter clubs. The way I look at these positions, it is distance technologies brought down a touch to appeal to a better eye in the C300. And the C300 is a traditional V6 type player, upshot who needs some feel, who wants the look of the club at address, and then adding a little extra distance to their game.
Very cool. So now the right-handed product is ready now, right? Is
yes.
that it? So for the righties, you're good to go. For the lefties, we got to wait a little while, right?
Well, it's certainly on its way.
I've heard various time frames, but needless to say, it is coming. That's the important part. All right, so let's see what the other one. Now, the outstanding part of what we have in the, we'll call it the metalwood category, is I think the paint job really caught a lot of people's eye, caught them off guard. I called it a matte version of a marble.
Yeah, a little bit like that. You know, Wilson obviously a strong tradition in red products. If you think back to the deep red products we had, which was a bright, lustrous red, this is a similar nature to that red, a deep red color, just with that matte finish and then a little richer color that we have here. And
I think it really marries up, because you know a lot of guys are about the style, and if you look at the bottom of the sole, I mean this is something that's going to look pretty doggone good in the bag, right? So they did really well with this one. I think you know, as a whole, Wilson kind of struggled in this category, but I think they hit it out of the park with this one.
Well, and wait till you get a chance to hit it if you've not already done it. It's a great performing product.
I snuck out there just before coming in here, and yes, there was a left-handed one, and it was surprisingly solid. You know, that's the best way to describe it. I expected to hear this big honking twang. You know, you get not even close. This thing was super duper solid, and it was just a great feel. All the way through, I got to hit the hybrids same way.
Well, you know, what's going on with these?
Yes.
Again, this is power holes. Yeah, across the driver fairway and hybrids. This is the year of the C300 and power holes. So we've added power holes to the driver. And again, we think of what power holes are, those through holes into the head, around the face of the club to add deflection, add forgiveness, add responsiveness to the entirety of the face. You know, for a long time, drivers in the center of the face were able to get the CTs or those maximum ball response values as high as we could get them. And so the trick now with what we're doing here and the location of these power holes is to spread that out across the faces as much as we can. And we've had a great success doing that.
Very good. So one of the questions that I've been asked is, what goes in the power hole?
Well, this is a urethane cap, simply something to cover the hole. The USGA doesn't like holes that end up going through clubs at all, or even holes that really go into clubs. So this is a cap on that structure. It doesn't affect the properties of the titanium as it would deflect or as the impact would happen. It's strictly there as a decorative feature to fill the cap and cover the holes.
Very cool. And then we have weight placements on the bottom, and then we have an adjustable hosel, which seems to be all the rage.
Well, you know, that serves a lot of purpose, particularly for the fitters of the world who want to go out. And every player has their own swing, their own swing type, their own body construction, their own strength. And so, again, in this particular case, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to appeal to the broadest selection of players by offering some variability in what that club could be. And, you know, whether you can tweak it on your own game or more preferably go to someone who can help you and guide you through the process to get the most out of your game. All we want to do is get more people who enjoy the game, and the more we can do that, the better off we all are. And
that should be everybody's job right there, and we say that. Our job is to make sure you play golf longer. And that's what we want to do. And if this happens to be that thing that helps it, more power to us. You know, you have three weight ports, and so the adjustability, however slight, we can move that around to make sure that fits. You can adjust the loft on this one to make sure that you get the ball up in the air with the proper spin rate. And then once you have it, in this particular instance, you have a really nice Fujikura shaft, and it's the speeder. And as tradition would have it, this is the you know, you get shafts in here that will say this, and they're really not that.
Oh, it is.
And this is the real deal. Wilson has been a company that has been putting the real deal shafts in them for the last couple of years that I'm aware of. So you're not getting faked out. Well, that's the best part.
We believe in our shaft partners, and we count on their expertise to produce the shafts for us, and it's our incumbent upon us to try to put the best possible shaft that we can that covers a broad range of people. So, you know, a good mid-flight with a little bit maybe lower spin head and shaft combination, and that's the target initial stock product.
So for Wilson in we'll call it the new modern red, and with the new C300, which I think is going to be just a barnstormer for the Wilson group. Irons, hybrids, fairway woods, drivers, all can get married up to you. The really important part is obviously getting fit, and I think you'll see these guys in your bag for a long time coming. So, John, thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Anytime.
And if you guys right here, C300s right here, take a look. Okay, guys, if you have any more questions, you know, you can just put them down in the show notes, and subscribe if you want to see some more. And let's see your scores go low.